You know what is even more difficult than competing in an MMA fight? Well, judging it. Concluding for these matches is one of the most pressing things about MMA, and rightfully so. Amidst the generated chaos and the scoreboard losing tracks, the competitors often go out of hands and everything becomes so overwhelming at times. Lately, judging has turned into a competition of who can make the most controversial remark. In such an environment, scandals, threats, biased decisions, or controversies are set to emerge. With that said, who says biased decisions are always the worst decisions? Stick with us till the end as in this video, as we are going to take a look at 10 of the most biased judgments in UFC history. Before we begin, smash the subscribe button and turn on the post notification bell to always stay updated. UFC 282. Blachowicz is Magum. UFC 282 made it into the headlines for all the wrong reasons. While certainly the Blachowicz is Magum match was one of the reasons too. The judge shocked everyone when he played right through the fighters' hearts when he declared it as a draw. Jan Blachowicz, on one hand, played it safe but not terrible. The man expected either to lose the bout completely or draw. On the other hand, Magum was a beast throughout his performances. He expected not even an ounce less than the winner's title. As it turns out, Blachowicz's fate shined upon him, making the verdict even. Well, we are still wondering what caused the judge to declare it as a draw. UFC 119. Sean Sherk versus Evan Dunham. There is no denial that in UFC history there are worse judgments than this one. But the best thing about Sean Sherk and Evan Dunham is the sheer transparency of biased decisions. Long thing short, fans absolutely did not like Sean Sherk's win over Evan Dunham in this UFC 119 match. The former repeatedly tried to hurt his opponent and wasn't even stopped for once. In the beginning of the match, even though Dunham had a greater hand, the judgment was completely biased. Apart from that one elbow move Sean acted upon earlier, throughout the rest of the match, the man did absolutely nothing. This might be voted as clearly one of the worst judgments made by the UFC judges. Moreover, even the crowd could tell how one-sided the judging panel was. While Sean Sherk came over for the post-match interview, the crowd filled the room with boss and negative hootings. UFC 75, Michael Bisping versus Matt Hamill. The 75th UFC match between Michael Bisping and Matt Hamill is an evident example of hometown favoring. The match, which took place in London, is often cited as an obvious example of how biased hometown judges get sometimes. The winner of a particular UFC match is often predicted from how one performs in the second and third round. But people, this match was a tough nut to crack. Matt Hamill dominated the first round, but in the second, it came down to Michael Bisping. The third phase of the war was a decisive one. Matt Hamill successfully dominated most portions of the match, or we would rather say the first 3 quarters. Guess who lifted the winner's reward? The British boy, Michael Bisping, of course. During the last segment of the third round, Matt Hamill loosened up his fatigued body, then Bisping came in like a wrecking ball to take advantage. But you know what? The more we think about it, it kind of seems fair, as at the end of the day, Michael did defeat Hamill. Right. So we believe more than being biased, the judges were focusing on technical aspects. UFC Fight Night 2, Demetrius Johnson versus Ian McCall. This 4-man tournament was all set to declare UFC's first ever 125-pound champion. But fight number 2 gathered negative headlines for a lot of reasons, including one as biased judgments too. First things first is one of my favorite encounters, as deciding the winner was impossible until the very last minute. Just like the previous one, the more we think about it, the more it appears as the right decision. Due to the extreme closeness of the competition between the two fighters, the judges rectified their own error. The judges could not even separate the 2 men fighting inside the ring, which was heavily backlashes. Moreover, Johnson was declared as the initial winner, but later they corrected it by calling it a draw. The biases of the judges was evident to the audience, hence the 4th round could not happen until a very long time. UFC 112, BJ Penn versus Frankie Edgar. The UFC match number 112 between BJ Penn and Frankie Edgar succeeded in putting itself under the limelight. Frankie Edgar, who was underweight and did not have many interesting achievements in his portfolios, as compared to the crown, Penn bagged the winner's reward surprisingly. While Penn was a little more on the aggressive side, Edgar played defensive mostly. At the end of the day, judges went with the decision of making Edgar emerge as the winner. Fans continue to argue how the judges made the decision based only on rulebooks, while it was clearly more on the aggressive side. UFC 20, Boss Rutten versus Kevin Randleman. This heavyweight face-off between Boss Rutten and Kevin Randleman remains as one of the most iconic face-offs, all thanks to its scoring. Fans and media continue to argue till date how positional dominance controls offense. It is not an unknown fact that the MMA rulebook says the one on the top for most of the time bags the winner's trophy, isn't it? Well, the judges in this match thought differently. Kevin Randleman absolutely dominated Baz Rutten by making him lay down for a significant time. But at the end of the day, it was Rutten who was declared as the winner owing to his blows from underneath. This infuriated Kevin Randleman's fans, who thought it was a clear case of biased judgments. What do you think? TUF 12 final, Nam Phan versus Leonard Garcia. While this particular finale between Nam Phan and Leonard Garcia is nothing but a huge head-scratcher, the fans are left with. Yes, Leonard Garcia did nothing more than swing his hands into the air and walk from one point to another throughout the ring, but somehow he still managed to bag the winner's title and walked away home with it. Nam Phan, on the other hand, had more scores on the scoreboard and was a clear winner. He was absolutely disheartened on hearing this peak of biases. While the possibility that the judges fell in love with Garcia's fighting style and hence awarded him more points for it could be a reason, but just for the media. Well, the judges never spoke a word on their unfair conduct ever since. UFC 104, Lyoto Machida versus Mauricio Shogun Rua. The match number 104 between Lyoto Machida versus Mauricio Shogun Rua could be aptly titled a tit for tat. Although it was Machida who bagged the winner's title that night, the judges had a lesson to be learned. The defending champion, Machida, was outstripped by Shogun's dominating fighting style that made it obvious that UFC was going to see a new champion that year. Unfortunately, the entire room was shocked when the champion was once again declared as the champion, ignoring Shogun's efforts altogether. Fortunately, in the rematch, Shogun made sure to shut the judge's mouth after he made it through. UFC 167, Georges St. Pierre versus Johnny Hendricks. This face-off between Georges St. Pierre and Johnny Hendricks is enough to highlight what the MMA judging panel lacks, which is common sense. Although it was Georges St. Pierre standing upright in the winner's position, it was Johnny Hendricks who won millions of hearts instead. You know, sometimes one does not even need to win the trophy if he can win the match, right? Hendricks' fighting style was aggressive and showed a hunger of winning, but the judges thought that it was a little out of line. It is funny how they always bring up the ground rules of fighting before making biased judgment, isn't it? Well, we believe Hendricks must be satisfied, realizing that he caused Beer a lot more damage than he himself was done. UFC 282, Paddy Pimblett and Jared Gordon. Coming down to the most fiery one in this list, the most recent one, as it seems like Judge Douglas Crosby might have found himself in a little trouble for his decision. During the first two rounds, the fight was largely spent in a series of striking exchanges, but it was the controversial third round which stole the show for all the negative reasons. The third round was a clinch battle stuck against the fence. The biased judges didn't even flinch before publicly favoring Pimblett. They called in the scores of 29-28, which was immediately called out as robbery. Fans even went as far as calling Pimblett a robber, who stole Gordon's win. Not just that, an official petition against the judge has been sanctioned for unfair conduct of the game. Calm down, people. It ended up in a draw, by the way. For most of the parts in this list, I personally think either the fighters must have made such an impression that might have compelled the judge to make exceptions for them, or they were just biased. You let us know in the comment section below which one in this list shocked you the most. Don't forget to give us a huge thumbs up if you liked the video.